It's been a few days since I did a proper DCU update, so in this video, I'm going to be discussing what's going on with James Gunn's disappointing Superman movie when it comes to both the box office and digital streaming. And since James Gunn has been telling us that Peacemaker Season 2 directly ties into his Superman flop, I watched the Peacemaker Season 2 premiere this weekend, which I will also discuss in this video, especially in terms of how it affects Gunn's DCU in the bigger picture moving forward. But before we begin, if you've been enjoying my videos recently and you haven't yet subscribed, please consider doing so, as it would really help an independent creator like myself.
Do it.
So when it comes to the box office, I guess Superman can finally say that it hit a milestone. It managed to somehow crack $600 million worldwide. I mean, it took it about 7 weekends or so to do it, which is really nothing special for such a high-profile tentpole movie. And I know some will point out that it did better at the box office than Captain Falcon America this year, or Thunderbolts, or Fantastic Four, but to be fair, those three are certified MCU flops from a franchise that has been alienating customers for years now. James Gunn's Superman was supposed to do the exact opposite, as it was attempting to launch a brand new cinematic universe with Superman at its center, a character that is considered more popular and more iconic than Captain Falcon, Yelena, and Pedro Pascal combined. And even with this advantage that James Gunn had here, he didn't seem to deliver the goods. Not only did his Superman movie end up being divisive, it also hasn't even broke even until now, in spite of all the spin you've been hearing from Gunn shills and Warner Brothers mouthpieces in the media. And even worse for Gunn, his Superman movie has not been able to surpass Zack Snyder's Man of Steel box office until now, and that's without even adjusting for inflation, which would put him in an even worse light. That's exactly why, in spite of all of James Gunn's initial statements to the contrary, Warner Brothers ended up bypassing him and rushing Superman to streaming much sooner than expected, desperately hoping to get some video-on-demand money to cover their losses, but even that hasn't been going too well for them. You see, while I'm sure people would watch Superman if it was added to a streamer like Netflix, which they already pay a monthly fee for, the type of money that Warner Brothers are trying to get from video-on-demand these days doesn't seem to be attracting as many people as they had hoped. If you look at a service like Apple, which provides people with VOD options including Superman, it's not exactly at the top of its sales charts or anything. And since I do read my comments, some very generous people keep reminding me that Superman has recently outperformed Jurassic World at the domestic box office. Keep in mind that domestically, it only beat Jurassic World by $10 million, while on the other hand, worldwide, Jurassic World has destroyed Superman's box office by a margin of hundreds of millions of dollars. So this domestic quote-unquote box office achievement from Superman is actually more of a participation trophy than anything else. And if you start taking into consideration the production budget and the marketing that went into this movie, which seems to be more than initially reported by the studio, internally, I am fairly certain that this is a real disappointment for them. And if you thought that the past few weeks haven't been great for James Gunn, this week we also saw the premiere of Peacemaker Season 2, which, if you recall, Gunn used as an excuse to explain why Warner Brothers decided to rush Superman to streaming, because according to Gunn, Peacemaker, Superman, and the upcoming Supergirl movie are all connected within his quote-unquote Superman saga, which seems to be some kind of creative pivot that he's been using recently, since it appears Warner Brothers may have limited the scope in where he can operate right now.
I've already finished the treatment for the next story in what I'll call the Superman saga.
And watching the Peacemaker Season 2 premiere, I was already baffled by a number of creative decisions Gunn made. First of all, while recapping Season 1, new scenes were shot that replaced the Justice League characters that were originally there in Season 1 with the Justice Gang. And while I know that Gunn is desperate to delete anything he's ever done that was somehow still connected with the DCU, and by extension Zack Snyder, this is a really dumb and annoying way to go about it. After all, he introduced a multiverse of sorts in this episode, so wasn't that the perfect setup to somehow tweak reality a bit and swap the characters within the actual story itself? Maybe Gunn was hoping that people wouldn't notice the retcon because it's been over 2.5 years since Peacemaker Season 1 came out. And of course, as usual, Gunn had his typical ego trip way of explaining his thought process on this.
Peacemaker was always in a weird place.
He was a part of this in-between universe of DC when there was nobody really, making sure everything was connected.
In any case, while all of this is annoying right out the gate, the episode then proceeds to suggest that Peacemaker is fond of dudes, and he also has a very naughty party at his home where everybody is naked doing naughty things together. And I'm not even talking rated R naked here. This is full frontal stuff, more along the lines of those risque late night movies, if you know what I mean. And I would show you the images, but I don't want to get in trouble here. And considering how James Gunn said that this ties directly into Superman,
Superman leads directly into Peacemaker. We have the setting up of all of the rest of the DCU in this season of Peacemaker. It's incredibly important.
I think this raises a lot of questions as well. I mean, this episode, we see the characters of Guy Gardner, Hawkgirl, and James Gunn's brother, which we saw in his Superman movie, as something of a crossover. But here's the catch. I thought James Gunn was brought in to run DC Studios because he was supposed to counter Zack Snyder's more serious and adult tone. But if Superman, Supergirl, and Peacemaker are all part of the same shared DCU, how exactly does all this extreme vulgar and naughty stuff appeal to families with children, which I thought was one of James Gunn's goals.
Our jobs make sure the DCU is connected.
And even beyond the controversy, I was pretty disappointed by the whole Peacemaker Season 2 premiere regardless. I think the original Season 1 of Peacemaker somewhat worked because it was kind of doing its own thing. I didn't mind that it was dumb, stupid, and vulgar because it was a series that didn't really have any broader implications. It was your typical quirky and offbeat James Gunn project, and rather than perhaps softening that approach for Season 2, Gunn decided to go all in and push the vulgarity to new extremes in a way that even I felt was too excessive. And for me, this only highlights the fact that James Gunn is not the right fit to run the DCU. He's too niche. His personal style, which is gradually wearing out its welcome, may fit some things and may work well in moderation, but it doesn't fit everything, and I certainly feel like we've been getting a bit much of it lately. He also doesn't conduct himself like a top-level executive, which is another big issue when it comes to his own personal image. And if Gunn doesn't start delivering much better results over the course of the next year, I wonder how much patience Warner Brothers CEO David Zaslav will continue to have for him. And as I was working on this video, I ran into a new interview with James Gunn where he said that Xolo Maridueña's Blue Beetle character may continue to appear in the DCU,
Him to slide very easily into the DCU. Same with Blue Beetle.
and maybe even on a show like Peacemaker, although I'm not really sure why. I mean, I like the actor himself, who was great in Cobra Kai, but I'm not really sure how exactly he would fit into Gunn's naughty naked parties or whatever he's doing on Peacemaker this season, but I guess we'll have to see. In any case, just wanted to give you this update, and if you're interested in getting more DCU reports like this one, please make sure to like and subscribe, as it would really mean a lot to me. Thanks for watching, my friends. Thank you, and good day.
I am such an awesome guy. I make so many videos.